Okay.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm here with my dear and old friend, Reina.
I'm not that old.
And, well, we go way back. Any case, Frank is a drummer who I've known for, 30 some odd years at this point. And I figured who else better to do this assignment with in this interview than someone that I actually know. So, hi Frank.
Hi, Alida.
How are you?
I'm good.
So we're a bit nerdy. I just have to preface that now. In any case, so as we all know, you're a drummer.
Yes.
And have been doing this for many years.
Yes.
So really, how old were you when you decided that you wanted to be a musician?
When I knew that's what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And why the drums?
Well, when I was probably 4 or something, my parents got me a little paper, crappy Sears drum kit. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Here. So I got drums when I was like 3 or 4. Played drums or whatever I was doing. Never had lessons. When I was 5, I started playing guitar, where I did have lessons, but I always liked playing the drums. When I got into junior high, I got in a band. We were like in 7th grade, and so with my 2 buddies, and we're still friends. We're still in contact with each other, and they still play music. I mean, they have real jobs, unlike me, but they still play music. I played guitar, but in this band, like I want to play drums. Like I'll play drums, and you guys play guitar. So we didn't have a bass player. We didn't know any better, so we had 2 guitar players. So it was me and my 2 buddies. So I was in junior high, and we had a band, and we were playing like parties, like junior high parties and stuff.
And that's where it all began.
It was awesome. That's when I decided I don't want to play guitar anymore because parents got me a real drum set, and then that was it. So we just played.
And now, how many instruments do you actually play?
Drums. I play a little bit of guitar. I mean, I could play a guitar, but not like great. But I'm just gonna say drum. Drums and percussion.
Yeah.
That's about. I dove into studio stuff, so I learned digital audio and learned all of this crap that you can't really see. But so I spent more time learning that than another instrument.
So you obviously play a host of music genres. What is your favorite? Like, if you had to pick one style, what type of music do you really enjoy playing?
Probably just rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I play everything. Everything, but I play world music. So I do play reggae. I play some jazz. I don't say I'm a great jazz drummer. I play jazz, but rock, R&B, pop, hip hop, like all of that. Like I can play all of that. But I think I have the most fun playing like Foo Fighters or just rock stuff. Yeah.
What is different about playing jazz versus? I mean, I get it's a different style of music, but as far as the instrument that you play, playing the drums, what is different about it, and why don't you like it?
No. I like it.
Prefer.
But because it's more difficult.
Okay, and what makes it difficult?
It's more challenging, like rock and all of this. Like, okay, well, I haven't thought this through before, so I'll probably edit this out. But like when you listen to rock songs or whatever, there's always like 2 and 4, like you can dance to it. Like if you're clapping to something, like when you're dancing, like you feel where the beat is. You feel where the beat is, right? And it's always 2 and 4 somewhere or whatever. If it's a pop tune or if it's a country tune, whatever. Like hip hop, rap. But with jazz, I mean, you couldn't like dance to jazz really. To most of it, right? It's just a different feel. It doesn't have like a really strong like backbeat.
Like maybe it's a little bit more random.
Yeah. Oh, so especially if it's like improvisational jazz or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So with rock stuff, it's more straightforward. If you're playing jazz, like you're doing something over here, and you're doing something over here, and it all works together, but it's not I've never had to try to explain that before. But it's just really, it's more technical. It's way more, it takes way more independence. You know, like because everything is always doing something. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a terrible explanation, but yeah. With rock stuff, it's more straightforward. With pop, R&B stuff, it's more straightforward. But with jazz, it's really a thing. Like, it's like years and years. And I worked on it for a while, and I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Not your thing?
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love listening to it. I love watching it. But if someone called me for a jazz gig, I probably would refer someone else. Just because I don't feel like I'm super strong.
You wouldn't give the paying person what they are paying
exactly.
for. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't want to embarrass myself. But I mean, I've gotten called for jazz gigs when I'm like, have to say, oh yeah, sorry, I'm booked already. But yeah, and then I give them somebody else's number who's more well suited for that. So, I mean, I wouldn't be terrible. But I wouldn't be great. I wouldn't like. They'd be like, hey, we're gonna call you again. Like, hey, well, you know, they'd probably never call me again. They'd probably like lose my number. So.
Well, and for someone like me, like I wouldn't know the difference, right? I'm not a jazz listener, so I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess it sounds great, you know. But if somebody's like into it, they're gonna be like,
and okay, so I mean, I guess this isn't really off topic, but that jazz and Latin music. Okay, so that whole thinking applies to like the Latin music, since you're doing world music and or whatever it is that you're doing.
There's a lot of things in there.
Music, but like with Latin, right? I can play some Latin stuff. Like I can play some Latin stuff, right? But I would never go sit in with a legit Latin band, like a Latin, because this is college, right? So I could say asshole. Is it okay to say asshole? Fine. Yeah. So they are such purists and such assholes about how you play their music, right? So if I were to get up and go, oh yeah, I could get through a tune, but if I'm not playing it legit, if I'm not playing it exactly the way that it's supposed to be played, because there is a certain style and a certain approach that you have to do. Like I could go in and wing it, and I would feel like, oh yeah, that was fine. But someone in the band would go like, you have no idea what you're doing. Like you totally don't know what you're doing. And I've been in that situation once, and I like never did it again.
So of all the people you've played with or for, and I know that's a lot, who has been your favorite and why?
The highlight of my career, I mean, I don't know if it's a career, but you know, the highlight.
Right, come on, you're being very modest. You've been. This is what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and I haven't had a day job since 1986. Probably.
And just
86.
so we know, I was 14 in '86.
I didn't know you then, so it's okay.
Yeah, we didn't know each other then.
I'm not going to jail yeah, she was 18, I swear.
So that's where we met. We'll talk about Disneyland and those Disney days. So that's where we met, right? Back in those Disneyland days. In any case, so how you clearly had already been working for a while, but you were barely like mid-20s when you started there, right?
I think so.
You clearly had already been working prior to.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And how, God, that seems like forever ago, because it was forever ago. It was 30 some odd years ago. Wow.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. So that was basically all covers. So it was pretty much like top 40 or whatever, pop. Good memories, bad memories. I know there's a few bad memories.
Yeah, we won't go into those. Good memories. That was a great gig. I mean, that was a great gig. Like that was kind of the gig that everybody wanted to have. So at the time, it was unheard of to be a musician. You had to be a union member. So we got medical, we got dental, like all optical. Like we had all these benefits that we didn't have to pay for it because it was like Disney dollars or whatever would be applied to it, and then so I mean, but I didn't need any of that kind of stuff then. I mean, I need it now, but you know, to have pretty much free health insurance, you know,
right,
it was crazy, and we were there at least 4 days a week, if not more.
The summer it was 5 nights.
Yeah, that could probably be up there with the highlight because I was playing so much. Like I was playing all day at Disneyland and then going to my gigs at night, which you would go to sometimes. You know, because you were 21.
At some point, I turned 20.
Yeah, I think we lied to get you into the Black Angus.
Yeah.
I think you probably weren't 21.
No, because that's when I was dating Mike.
Were you 21?
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. That was, I mean, it was good and bad, obviously, because don't ever date the chick singer. But first off, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. That was a pretty big highlight for me because I was just playing all the time, and I didn't have to do anything else. You know?
Well, and to that point, it was, I mean, we all have heard stories about you don't know when the next gig is going to be, right? And so here you are, you've got a steady thing happening, probably being paid relatively well.
It was at the time.
At the time,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it hasn't changed much. It's kind of the same pay now as it was then.
Wow, really?
Yeah, from what I hear.
Plus with having benefits, which is something that was probably a completely foreign concept for you.
Yeah.
And getting to play like that's it was repeated, right? So it was like every hour or whatever, stage would pop up and people would get excited.
And you see people from all over the world.
Right.
You're getting so much exposure to like everybody. I mean, we saw so many see so many famous people there that would just like show up and like stand behind you when you're playing. And,
right.
You know, like it was cool. That was a pretty important part in my career. I think, you know, I turned the gig down 3 times when they offered it to me because I didn't want to cut my hair. So I had really long hair, and every time they'd offered it to me, I was like, oh, I'm good. No, I don't want to cut my hair. I don't want to cut my hair. And they finally hit me up when I really needed a gig. And then I got the gig and I was there for 4 or 5 years.
That was a while.
Yeah, 5 years maybe.
That was a while.
But yeah, that was a great gig. It was a great gig. A lot of people wanted that gig, so I feel very fortunate that I had it.
And it was fun. I mean, some of my greatest memories of that time of my life happened there. Whether it be dancing or, you know, being part of that local crowd.
Yeah.
If you weren't a drummer, what would you have wanted to do?
Ooh.
Can't even imagine it because this is what you're just.
Well, I can't. No, I mean, like oh God. So I grew up on an egg farm, which you didn't know that until the other day,
recently,
right?
yeah.
So
An egg farm, that's
an egg farm, yeah. So I mean, but I spent my whole high school years like working on an egg farm. Like we had like a million chickens. It was like a big like operation. I think it was like the one of the biggest egg producers in the whole state of Texas. So I would like work 12-hour days in like over 100-degree heat outside. I mean, every day, like at least 6 days a week, no joke. But I would always go play drums. Like I would like after work, I would always just go home, go upstairs, you know, and play drums until like my dad got home, and then I had to stop. But because it would just be miserable, you know.
Put a gun to your head.
Probably. It'd be easy to get. It's easy to get a gun in Texas.
Right.
So, yeah. Everybody has one.
But isn't that interesting though? Is like you do something and you can't imagine yourself doing anything else.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a very small. I can count on 3 fingers what I could ever see myself doing. And what would you say to PJ? You know my son. If he were like, I want to be a musician, what would you tell him?
I would probably discourage him.
Really?
I would. I've just had to discourage I've had to discourage my kids before. Like I'm surprised my dad, and I'm sure it was not my dad, I'm sure it was more my mom, that as much as she didn't want me to ever leave Texas, I think she knew like I'm not cut out for this. Like, this is not my thing. So they let me move out when I was like 19, and then I went to music school in Hollywood, and then I never went back.
Yeah.
Obviously. But
why would you discourage somebody from going in that field when you've done well? Like, and this
because
what you
not
do.
everybody does, because it's like, because it hasn't been easy. I mean, it's been a struggle, and it's been stressful because, like you said, you live paycheck to paycheck, and especially over the past few years, even before COVID, you know, like there was like, you know, some times where my work kind of dried up a bit, you know, and I've never had to, not like I've never had to look for work, but I've been fortunate enough to have like work come to me. Like, you know, people call me because they know me and they like, I guess I have a reputation or whatever, that I get called for gigs. So I've never had to spend a lot of time like cold calling, or, you know what I mean, like just trying to hit up people for work and whatever. I've been lucky enough to have people that know me and they call me for stuff.
And that's not the norm? Maybe not?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, I mean, I guess if I was terrible, then I would never get any calls.
Right.
You get me and Jason Freeze joke about this, because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do a master class. Like, let's just go up and do a master class about, you know, not getting into the music business. Like, to discourage every kid, we're just going, yeah, let's just like go to the Brass Music School. Like, you know, we'll do a master class on like not being a professional musician, because it's tough. It's, you know, it's like an artist, like, especially someone starting from scratch, unless you're lucky enough to get 1 million followers on YouTube.
Now that's what it's all about, right?
So it's like, it's a long shot. You know, it's always a long shot. So I would say, what my dad told me, and I didn't do, but you know, you need to have something else to fall back on. You got to have a backup plan.
Right.
That I had no plan B at all. But that's what I had to tell my kids. Like, well, at least get a college education first, so that you have something to fall back on. Which, at the time, I didn't. I ignored it. But it's like, it's great if you want to play music, awesome. But I would definitely not make it your
bread and butter.
Your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Have like a gig, have a job, and do this like on the side. You know, like, you know, weekend warriors or whatever. But I feel like a total a-hole. But I would probably discourage.
Really?
Is that terrible?
No. All right, last question. How many?
No, I'm not gay. No, that wasn't it. Okay, right.
I know we don't have albums anymore, but if you had to guess, how many albums have you recorded on? Or your tracks? You do tracks too, right? So do you do? So when you do tracks, do those go to somebody
end up
else?
on record? Yeah, actually, someone just sent me a record that I played on, and that's an actual record. So
wow, who does records now?
I know.
Awesome.
Well, it's kind of a thing now.
Is it coming back in fashion?
Yeah, vinyl's coming back, but I did record it with this guy. I couldn't
and he even left you a little note.
He did. He sent me a note. So yeah, the highlight for me was playing with Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. Mm-hmm. I have a platinum record over there that you can't see, but I can take a picture of it or something. But like, I was in a band.
Are you on that record? Are you recorded on that? Okay.
Long story short, I knew Scott Weiland before Stone Temple Pilots. So he was in a band in Huntington Beach. He had an original band. I got into an original band that from a guy that I knew back then in Huntington Beach with Scott Weiland. Then we ended up at the rehearsal spot in downtown LA, sharing the same rehearsal spot as Stone Temple Pilots. So this was before they blew up. We were sharing a rehearsal spot. We would hang out, we'd go hit a happy hour or whatever, downtown LA. And then I kind of quit playing with that band, lost contact with those guys. And then I saw MTV one day, I'm like, oh my God, that's Scott Weiland. And they were huge. I mean, they're a great band. He was a great frontman. And so I never saw him throughout the whole Stone Temple Pilots days. But in like 1998 or so, I reconnected with the guy that I was in the band with that shared the rehearsal spot. Reconnected with him, we started doing some recording, and then Scott Weiland and him were like best friends, like brothers. They had like matching tattoos, and they reconnected, and then Scott wanted to produce our band. So we moved into his studio. So we moved into his studio in Burbank, and he just gave us the keys, and we recorded for like a year. We were like there every day. I mean, we weren't getting paid, but I mean, that was like, he was going to produce whatever we did, and then somehow this Austin Powers thing came up, and we did a cover of Time of the Season, that old Zombies tune. You'd know it if you heard it.
It's the time of the season when love runs high. In this time, give it to me easy.
And then we were getting a bit of a buzz because of the band, and we were like in some like Spin magazine. They did some write-ups. Like we were like the first band on Scott's label. And like all this stuff was going on great. We did Sundance Film Festival. First time Scott had been on stage in like 4 years because he had been in and out of rehab. So it was kind of like a big deal. And then Scott ended up in rehab again, and the lead singer, basically, who was his best friend, said, "We're done. We're done." He took the master tapes of everything from the studio, left. The band was pretty much broken up, and then and I said, "Well, screw you guys," because Scott was wanting me to record on some stuff for him. So long story short, the band broke up. Basically, I stayed in Scott's camp, and when he got out of rehab, we did a bunch of recording with him. Like 2 of the songs made it on his last solo record.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're about to maybe release something else of these demos that we did. So, long story short, Scott Weiland, that was like the highlight. That's when I saw like, oh, this is going to really like do something and blow up, and a great opportunity for me. And then it just like.
Consequential angels, sentimental halos, tend to always be subversive.
The only thing, I'd say the only thing that might have done is gave me a little more like street cred, or just to say, oh, I play with Scott Weiland, or oh, I have a platinum record. Right. So that kind of people are like, oh, really? Oh, well, you must be pretty good, or you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, but I don't do jazz.
Right. Yeah, I don't do jazz, or Latin. Yeah, God knows. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it definitely helped when I could throw that out there when I needed to. And that sounds totally lame, but you got to work with whatever you have.
Obviously, very tragic what happened. It's like Amy Winehouse. Like, yeah, pretty much a given that chick's gonna go at any point, But it's just it's so unfortunate. You see people with so much talent, so much promise, and for whatever reason, we see it all the time, right? It's like these people, whether any walk of life, have everything together, whether it be, the great job, the great marriage, the great family, a great career in whatever, and unfortunately, alcohol, drugs just kind of can take over.
I was still a huge Amy Winehouse fan. I love Amy, but I knew, like, in my heart, I knew, like, she's never going to make another record. That's it. Like, I knew that was going to be her one and only record that really did anything. Because she was so talented, she was just so awesome, but then she just was such a mess, And I was, I was a fan. Loved that record. I wore it out. Like, I listened to it all the time. And I think I probably actually got upset when I heard she died, because I was like, wow, because that's so much talent just like gone. And with Scott, yeah, too. But I knew that was coming. I saw that coming. I mean, he followed me to an ATM once so that I could give him money to score. So
you've clearly played all over the place. And actually just a couple weeks ago you shared a story, not necessarily a music story, but a story when you were in Dubai. Where, of all the places you've played, where has been your favorite, and why?
Playing Sundance with Scott was awesome, because I knew that was like a kind of a monumental, for him, first time on stage in 4 years, and it was like a small club, right?
Right.
I played once. I subbed for a friend of mine. And, long story, but his mom, I didn't know his mom was Dionne Warwick. Yeah. So he was like, he called me up and he's, hey, are you free? Whatever it was. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm free. He goes, hey, my mom needs, I need you to cover for me. I can't play with my mom. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He sends me a cassette tape. I'm listening to these songs, and I'm like, these are all Dionne Warwick songs. He's like, oh, that's my mom. Oh, I thought you knew that was my mom. I go, no, I did not know it was your mom. And so it was really, really complicated, really hard. Like, she had like an orchestra, and like the whole thing was a train wreck. Getting there was a train wreck.
Where did you have to go?
Sardinia.
Oh, because that's rough.
So that was cool. No, that part was cool. Sardinia was awesome. So that was, that might be the coolest place I think I ever played, at least. But it was really stressful.
I bet. And how long did you get to like
prepare
rehearse for that? Is it like
not long
was it like,
enough.
here's the tape, I need you to be there in 2 days?
It was like less than a week. And then they sent me all these charts, like, you know, and my reading's okay, but it's not great. But there's like multi-pages of charts, and there's like a conductor.
What does that mean? Because I don't know. Like when you see like all these like charts or whatever.
Well, so I'm actually working on so these are like drum charts.
Oh, okay.
Right? This is more detailed, like drum stuff that, you know, I can understand it. Especially when it's right side up. I can understand it a lot better when it's right side up. But yeah. So anyway, so I'm having to read this music that I knew a lot of the songs, but a lot of them I didn't. And this is where I kind of ran into trouble with the whole Latin thing, because I have thought about this forever. So she did a Brazilian record. So there were these Brazilian rhythms and beats and stuff that had to be like exact. They had to be legit. Like I couldn't like go in and like fake my way through it, you know. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having to read these charts and my reading's not that great, and try to look at a conductor that's like conducting like the band and the orchestra, you know. Right. And so the thing that made it the thing that was a real monkey wrench is that they were flying out a legit real percussionist that was in the band, like a Brazilian percussionist that was supposed to be there. And so he got held up with his passport and he couldn't come. So we flew to Sardinia without him. I haven't thought about this in years. And just as an emergency, they had tapes, like ADAT tapes, which are like, you know, they look like VHS tapes, right? Okay. They had recorded all of his parts for every song on these tapes, right? So he flew with the tapes. And so I had to play, so you know what a metronome is? You know what a metronome is? No. Okay, so a metronome is this. Here's a... Oh, okay. Okay, so that keeps you in time with... So anyway, so basically they had these tapes that had a metronome on it and all of his percussion parts. So not only did you have to play exactly what was on the paper to match with what he played, so they threw that on me at the last minute. And so I'm like trying to listen to this and trying to watch this conductor, and I was like scared to death. I was just like, it was the most nerve-wracking experience in my life. And you can't fake it, right? Because like, so let's say there's, I don't know, like a wind instrument player, right? And there's multiple. If they don't know, they could just fake it and not blow. I can't fake it. You can't just stop. But I'm like, if I'm, so I'm driving the bus. That's what everybody's like, you know, you're driving the bus, and like anything that I do wrong is just going to stick out like a sore thumb. Right. And potentially throw off other people, oh my God. Too. Well, it could have been, everything about it could have been a complete nightmare, especially if you're playing, okay, so if you're playing to a track, if you're playing to a pre-recorded track, right? It's not going to follow you, like everybody. So I'm following it, everybody's having to follow me, so I get off from the recording, the whole thing just falls apart. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was under a lot of pressure. It was like, oh my God. And anyway, it actually went fine. She actually was very nice. He gave me a really nice introduction. He even said, this is like the first time he's ever done this show. He's covering for my son. It was like really nice. I have a cassette of it somewhere, but that was the coolest, most scary gig probably between that and... There are a lot of moving parts in there that any one of them could have just... Oh, I would have been so humiliated. This was, yeah, it was scary. I was pretty
And was it in
At
a
the
big
fight.
venue?
Oh yeah, it was a big. It was for. You remember Amway?
Oh yeah.
So it was like the Diamond division of Amway from Japan. So there
Mm-hmm.
were like probably 500 plus people that they flew out from Japan to Sardinia. Order whatever you want.
But were you really only there for
Food.
one night?
I was there for. I was there for the night before we did the gig, and then left the next day. So it was like 2.5 days or something.
It's a long way to go for.
It is a long way to go.
2 days.
And very.
I mean, I've gone to France for 4, but I know where I was going, right? Like I
That's
wasn't
short.
Yeah.
Did that include the flight? 4 days? Or
No,
that
those
you were
are.
able- you were
I
there
was
4 days?
no, I was there for 4 full
Oh,
days.
okay.